A few weeks ago, I got donated a lot of retro gaming stuff. One of the items donated was one of two Game Boy classics. This one is a Zelda Wind Waker Team Shell. Now I am very familiar with this one. That is because I actually customized this unit into what it looks like now. I customized this unit in 2010 and now it made a full circle and I got it donated. But to be honest, I don't really like its aesthetics. It's too crowded for my taste. After 11 years and I'm more into that clean look now. So I set out to make this unit clean and ordered a bunch of stuff. See, the thing is, I already have a Game Boy Classic with an IPS screen and new shell. So I wanted to do something different with this one. When I came to test this unit, there were a few things wrong with it. When I opened up the battery lid, its problems were clear. The battery springs had broken off, but there was also some battery leakage. Lucky for me, the leakage stopped at the springs and clips and it didn't touch the insides. So all it needed was a new case, springs and a better screen. Enter a new IPS screen that has more and even better options than the one I have already. This screen promises easy and more accessible features right in the palm of your hand. The items I received were a new motherboard for the IPS screen, a separate board for the OHD controls, which I'll show you later on, the IPS screen, the much needed bracket for screen alignment, the screen ribbon cable, a pretty little white screen cover, the new clean white shell, another white screen cover, battery lid, and white buttons with rubbers. Got out the trusty tri-ring screwdriver, which by now I think I have 12 of these, and just like before I'm speeding this up. All the components from both shells have to be removed so they can be placed inside the new shell, and these buttons don't look great either. So I'll be disposing all of these. Now these parts are pretty easy, it's just putting the removed components back into the new shell. The manual states that you need to trim the shells on a few spots. Now I could opt to get out my Dremel from the shed, but the shell plastic is pretty soft. The easiest way is to just take a really sharp kitchen knife here and adjust it just a little bit. Also, like last time, the shell needs to be trimmed at the screen area. This also requires just a minor trim at the edges. So I decided to sand it down. The last trim is the volume insert. Sand it down and it's perfect for what it is. The IPS screen needs to be taped to the back of the plastic screen bracket. In this case, the included double-sided tape needs to be placed on the back of the IPS screen. The same goes for the OSD motherboard. Both need to be taped to the bracket in order to make it all fit and to make sure that none of the components drift around in the shell. Now this was a bit tricky and I would have used another approach would I have known. Both the screen and OSD motherboard need to be connected through this pressure ribbon cable. If I would have known how hard this was with both components attached to the bracket, I would have connected these first and then stick them onto the bracket with tape. Time to put the complete thing inside the shell. And thanks to this handy bracket, it's easier than, for example, some Game Boy Advance screens, which you have to manually aim and adjust to get a straight picture. On to the next part. And as you can see here, the original screen itself also showed leaking damage. The only part I need from this motherboard is its speaker, which looks fine. I desoldered it and needed to resolder it to the new screen motherboard. I am not going to use these replacement rubber pressure pads. Lesson learned, these don't feel like the original ones at all, so I am reusing the originals here. Time to fit it all in, and I'm lifting the shell with its components up in the air here. The reason why is that the screw inserts of the shell need more pressure than usual, and I don't want risking breaking that new IPS screen due to flat surface pressure. Now this ribbon cable is a bit tiny, so I used a big tweezer to hold it down while I push it into its insert, and then laying down its tiny clamp on it. The last annoying thing to do is insert the screen ribbon cable. At first, it felt like I could not get one end of the ribbon cable into the original motherboard. It's a really sturdy fit and needs to be pushed in just right. In all the struggle I faced with this, I totally forgot to insert the power slide button and had to disconnect the whole thing again. This does happen to me a lot when I'm so fixated on one thing. Now to put this thing back together. The first screen cover I picked wasn't great. Somehow it got a huge scratch, so I picked the second one, which had protection stickers on both sides, instead of one, like the first, just to show you how important protective screen foil can be in the end. So let's place those batteries, pull out some games and test this refreshed unit. It works solid. At my first boot I was more amazed than I thought I would be. I started with an original Game Boy screen, to an IPS one, and now this newer IPS screen. So I grabbed my other Game Boy IPS unit and started comparing. Here's the thing, the new IPS screen has a lot more options built in, and that's because of the separate OZ motherboard. The IPS screen inside my first Game Boy IPS mod is just an IPS screen. Sure, it can shift through different colors, but that's all it does. This new IPS screen has extra features, next to shifting through colors, which is easier than the other one to be honest. It also has a hidden menu. You can pop up this menu by holding down the brightness button for 3 seconds. It's an overlay that can only be controlled with the brightness button and lets you choose from different options concerning the screen. Adjust brightness, its vertical and horizontal positions, and its main thing here is that you can choose between a pixel effect or something that resembles a smooth mode, more in line with anti-aliasing to make it simple. Personally, I like this mode. While the other Game Boy shows you the pixel screen by default, as the game is built like that, the smoothing option is a tad nicer to look at when it comes to looking at it for a longer time. You can also adjust saturation, but I don't think there's much use for that. Great that it's there though, for people who want to break out some wacky color scheme. So there you have it. Which one is my favorite? Well, if you didn't notice already, it's a new screen of course. For the same price as the other screen, you get a bunch of more screen options and a much easier way of adjusting things, like screen colors with a twist of the brightness knob. If you like this video, I would definitely like it if you hit that thumbs up button and even a subscribe. Don't forget that I have more similar videos in this playlist if you want to see more modifications on retro consoles. And thank you for watching.